I would encourage you to pay them maybe 10 or $15 to memorize this acronym. And it's something that we created in the Black Business School specifically for the Black community, specifically for Black folks. And this is something that I know is going to work, and it'll make a massive difference in how they make money. And so this is what I call sturdy children. Now, some of you have heard me make reference to this. And so what I'm going to do is very quickly put it up on the screen. And what sturdy stands for is systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation. Systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation. So what does that mean? Well, if you start with the beginning and you look at the S systems, people that make a lot of money tend to make their money through systems. People that make a lot of money tend to make their money through systems. They don't make their money through labor. Okay. And one aspect of what I would consider to be almost like a form of economic racism is that I don't recall ever at any point being taught how to make money through a system. I remember being taught how to make money by getting up and going to work every day and being a part of someone else's system. And so what I would encourage you to consider is is making sure that your child understands that people who make money are people that create systems, and then those systems scale. So if you look at, for example, Elon Musk, who might in a given year make $2 or $3 billion, he doesn't make that money because he worked really hard. He worked extra hours at his job. He makes that money because he has a great system, and that system has people in it, and it has technology in it, and it allows him to sell things. And another way to look at this is to think of it in terms of what I call economic math. So with economic math, here's what economic math looks like when you are Black, typically in most Black families. In most Black families, economic math goes like this. It says, if I want to make $500 and I make $50 an hour, I have to work, I have to sell time. So, how many hours do I have to work? Answer me in the chat. Let's do a consciousness exercise. How many hours do I have to work if I want to make 500 bucks? I want to go on a trip, and I need $500 and I make $50 an hour. How many hours do I have to sell in order to in order to make that money? I got to traffic myself. So how much of my time do I have to traffic in order to make $500? Answer in the chat. Easy question. I'll give you a second to answer. 10. Thank you, Veronica, Stewart, and Ginger. Okay. So that's the economic math that we are raised on, right? And so when we're doing our calculus in our head, if we never get raised out of that, if we never get exposed to economic maturity, where you learn other ways to make money, then you're always doing that very primitive, very simple version of economic math. The more time I sell, the more money I make. And so what you're doing is you are selling what you might call a perishable commodity, because you are a perishable commodity. Your human capital is perishable, meaning that there's only so many years that you can work. At some point, you're going to get old, you're going to get tired, you're going to die. Just like if you buy a banana at the grocery store, that grocery store is perishable, or that banana is perishable. It's not going to last 50 years. It's going to last about 5 days. So effectively, when you're selling time, you're making a really tough trade. You're sort of selling this limited resource in exchange for just enough money in order to survive, and that's really, really hard on you. So a person that makes their money through a system has a different kind of math that is at a higher level of consciousness. They're operating on a higher dimension. Mathematically speaking, we would say that they're in a different vector, right? So they're able to go to a third dimension as opposed to operating in the two dimensions that other people operate in. What does that mean? So a person that makes money with a system doesn't say, if I want $500, I have to, get $50 an hour for 10 hours. A person who makes money in a system, their math goes like this. It says, I need $500. I need to sell something for 50 bucks, and I need to sell 10 units of that. And the thing about that particular equation is that time is not even a variable. It could take 5 years to do that, or it could take 5 seconds. So what you've done is you've created an economic wormhole where you're able to almost time travel financially to a very quick, very powerful outcome, because you have a very powerful system that gives you an excellent financial vehicle and a deep economic engine that helps you get there. Do you follow me? Just using Star Trek analogies here. That's you're literally traveling at warp speed now, because time doesn't matter anymore. It's not like, oh, it's going to take 10 hours to do that. You don't know how long it's going to take because it depends on how quick your customers arrive or how good your system is. So that's why people that make lots of money, they tend to have better economic vehicles where they're able to make lots of money really, really fast. Like that lady, Super Scent, who sells makeup. And she, from what I understand, I don't know for sure, but I could have sworn I saw that she doesn't even really make the makeup. She just took makeup and just white labeled it. She just put her brand on the makeup, and this lady would do these launches and make $1 million in like 90 minutes or something, right? Because she's got this fan base and this system for selling this makeup, and she makes a whole lot of money really quickly. So what I would say to you is, how about we educate all our kids and have them do case studies, have them look at case studies like that and say, look, wow, look at this person over here. They made, how do they make $100,000 in an hour? How do you do that? Right. And so studying those different models and those systems allows them access to the more powerful ways of making money that go beyond just the whole, let me just get the best job I can and sell 1,000 hours of my life in order to make the money that I want this year. Because that's very depressing. Because remember that when you spend all that time in the corporate plantation, remember the math, we did that before, that again, a consciousness exercise. Most people don't even do this, but think about this. If you work 40 hours a week, or let's say it's 50 hours a week, because you got to spend time getting ready for work and coming home from work and all that. So let's say it's 50 hours a week that you're spending at work, getting ready for work and coming home from work. And you do that over over the course of 1 week. That's 50 hours a week. You do that over the course of a year. 50 weeks out of the year, you get 2 weeks for vacation. After that year of 25, you have 2,500 hours that you've given to the corporate plantation. And then you go out a decade, that 2,500 hours becomes 25,000 hours. And then let's say that you do like most people and you work for 40 years. Well, 40 years times 25,000 is 100,000 hours, right? So you work for, is that math right? Did I do the math wrong? Because for some reason I thought it was 50 years. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's just make this, let's make the math easy here. All right. So you've given 100,000 hours of time to building businesses for other people. So given that you have um given that you have millions of our people that are dedicated to giving 100,000 hours of labor to white-owned institutions, does it surprise you at all that white people have all the money? It shouldn't surprise you. It shouldn't surprise you at all. I mean, of course they're going to have all the money because they have all the money that they earn, and then they have all the money that you earn. They have all the stuff that they've got, and then they have all the stuff that you would have had if you were working for yourself instead of working for other people. So effectively, this sort of simple math in terms of understanding what happens when you give away 100,000 hours of labor, I think that's an important consciousness exercise because what you're doing is you're selling your life. 100,000 hours is a lot of time. There's 8,760 hours in a year. So, a decade is 87,000 hours. So over the course of say 20 years, that's about 175. So you're giving up like maybe about 15 years of life. So what if I offered you $500,000 and I said, I'm gonna give you $500,000, but you got to give me the next 15 years of your life. You're just gonna die 15 years earlier. How many of you would take that money? Would any of you take that money? Like, let's say whatever age you are, put your age in the chat. Everybody tell me what age you are. All right. So let's say that you are 40. Or okay, Veronica's 67. Okay, I see 45. Khaleesi's 28. Okay, so all right, so Errol's 43. Let's talk about Errol. Errol, okay, so Errol, if I offered you $500,000 and said, I'm gonna give you $500,000, but I want you to, and then in exchange for this money, you have to get into this machine, and I'm gonna be 15 years younger. I'm 52. I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna be 37, and you're gonna be 58. Would you take that deal? Would you sell the next 15 years of your life for, let's say, $500,000? Yes or no? What do y'all think? Do y'all think he should take that deal? Errol said, nah. Okay. I know Errol. Errol's a smart guy. That's a sucker's deal. That's a deal with the devil. I'm not gonna be the devil. I'm wearing red today, but I'm not the devil. So I want you to think about it in those terms and think about what you're giving up when you go and you spend your whole life on the corporate plantation. You're literally selling 15 to 20 years of your life. Some people are selling more than that. Some people work overtime. Some people work long after retirement. I only did 40 years. That's assuming you work from 20 to 60. Really, a lot of people work from 20 or maybe 50, age 15 to age 75. So some people don't give 100,000 hours. Some people give 120,000 hours. So my point is to say that when you're selling something that valuable, as valuable as your time that you could be spending with your kids, time that you could be spending exploring your life, living your life, spending time with your parents before they get old and before they die. You're selling this to other people. So what greater gift can you give your kids than to give them the keys to enjoying that other 100,000 hours of life that they would have had if somebody had not convinced them to traffic themselves into corporate slavery at an early age. So the systems part of the sturdy model is basically saying that people who make money in a system are able to make their money without having to necessarily just sell time. It doesn't mean they don't have to work hard and make preparations and put in the time. For sure, they have to do all those things, but it's a different sort of trade-off. And if your system becomes good enough, if you're trained very well on developing these systems, then it becomes this beautiful scenario where you see this young person who's making all kinds of money because every time they come up with an idea, they know how to form a system that can implement that idea, that can execute that idea, and then you see that kid just kicking butt, taking names, and making lots of money. The T stands for technology. Technology is everything right now. It's always been everything, but it's really everything now. People who understand technology have a much easier time making money than people who don't. Most of the wealth on this earth, about two-thirds of it, has been generated by nerdy guys in Silicon Valley who program computers and use apps and all this other stuff. And so when you have a disposition that's anti-technology, you might as well have a disposition that's anti-wealth. You cannot be resistant to new technology. You have to figure it out. Get people around you that can understand it. You have to learn these things. That's really important. So when you tell your child how to make money, start with systems and technology. And then when you have that kid that is smart enough with computers that wants to be an engineer, don't show them how to just get a job as an engineer. Show them what Elon Musk is doing because he's also an engineer. The difference is that he probably makes $10 million an hour or something crazy like that. Entrepreneurship is something every black child needs to learn because we need people that are going to create jobs. We need an army of business developers and business owners. We need a whole entrepreneurial army for the next generation that's going to get us ready for the coming economic crisis. The economic racism in America is not going to go away. You're never going to wake up one day and find out that white people love you enough to give you their money. You're not going to find out that people are going to feel sorry enough for you that they're going to give you more stuff. In capitalism, when people look at you as pathetic, they don't feel sorry for you, they just exploit you. Capitalism is pimping 101, and in this system, you do not want to have a community that is weak. So entrepreneurship is essentially important because there's lots of people in our community that talk about being free. Freedom, 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 freedom. We talk about freedom. I want to be free. I want to be free. I want to be free. Stop saying that. Stop saying that you want to be free because half of these people out here, half of our folks don't even know what freedom looks like. You can't be free if you are stuck on the corporate plantation begging your oppressor for a job or if your oppressor is responsible for whether or not your children get to eat. That ain't freedom. I don't know what it is, but that's not freedom. I'm not judging those of us that are in that situation. You got tricked. You got hoodwinked and bamboozled. That's how you ended up there. And so what I'm simply saying to you is that in America, in a society where money runs everything, cash rules everything around me, you can't have no freedom if you ain't got no damn money. You can't. You just can't. It just doesn't work. If it works at all, the only way you can have freedom with no money is if somehow you found a way to live without money at all. And that is a pathway to freedom, by the way. People think that financial freedom means being rich. You don't have to be rich to have financial freedom. You just have to have a life that is independent of economic pressure, where somebody can't take money away from you and force you to do something, or they can't give you extra money and force you to do something. If you are able to live your life independent of the financial consequences of your personal choices, then you are technically financially free. Congratulations. My daughter, one of my girls is financially free and she doesn't make that much money. She said, well, how can I be financially free? I don't make that much. I said, well, you don't have to make a lot of money. I said, you're free because you don't run around here letting money drag you into stupid situations. You're not a financial addict. You have to buy expensive stuff. You go shopping at Payless. You buy your clothes at Target and Walmart. So that's a type of financial freedom too. You're able to, if you don't like a job, you can quit the job and you don't worry about the money you're going to lose. If you don't like a man, you don't have to date that man because he's a baller and he's got money and you're accustomed to a certain lifestyle. You can walk away from that man. So you are financially free. So that is another pathway to financial freedom. So having lots of money is not the only way to become financially free. So let's just be clear about that. But the reality is that we use words that are beyond our pay grade. We use words without being trained on the power of those words and what it means to really follow through on those words. We use the word freedom and have never really sat and meditated or become conscious of what freedom really looks like and what the price of freedom actually is. RIP to Malcolm X. You remember what Malcolm X used to say that the price of freedom is? He said the price of freedom is what? He said the price of freedom is death. So are you willing to die to protect your freedom? Most people are not. Most people will accept slavery. And if you were in class last night with Powernomics training, you'll know that Dr. Claude Anderson wrote that one of the reasons that other people don't respect us is because we weren't willing to fight and even die to defend our freedom. We were willing to accept servitude just so we could stay alive. Because every time you had some young man or young woman who said, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees, people would say, oh, that's stupid. Don't do that, boy. You're crazy, boy. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Instead of saying, okay, you're brave. I respect that. You go, thank you for being so brave. We don't do that. We don't thank people for being brave. We ridicule them for being brave. So we use the word freedom and we don't know what freedom means. We don't know the price of freedom. If you look at any free country on this earth that doesn't have another country telling it what to do, those countries have all protected their freedom in blood. That's the reality. Now, I'm not saying that has to be your mandate. I'm not saying that you have to go and die for anything. I'm not asking you to do that at all. This is not a war rally, okay? But what I am saying is that at the very least, the price of freedom might be it might be discipline. The price of freedom might be some discomfort. What does that mean? Well, the discipline and discomfort might come from you forcing yourself to implement a strategy to have the economics required for you to truly buy yourself out of corporate slavery. A lot of us could buy ourselves out of corporate slavery if we were committed to saving our money a little bit more. But don't nobody want to save. Everybody want to get turned up at the club. We could pay the price of our freedom if we were willing to commit ourselves to investing at the highest level possible. But no, nobody wants to do that because investing involves this thing called delayed gratification, which we're trained that's for suckers, that's for squares. Do you know how many times I had to deal with the fact that I was seen when I was a young man? I was seen by a lot of Black women as a square because I was thinking about my future. I was making plans for the future. I said, I'm a scrub right now, but just wait till I'm about 40. I'm going to be doing great when I'm 35 or 40. In fact, not even 35. I was making over $100,000 a year on my 31st birthday. But no, when I was 24, 25, I was the guy in grad school who couldn't pay the rent. And there were a lot of suckers, a lot of weak men who had it all right now, but were throwing it all away because they were doing stupid stuff to get it, that were seen as more appealing than a nerdy guy like me who spent his time in the library. I'm not mad. I'm not bitter. I'm not judging. I don't care. I married the girl of my dreams. So that's not why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing it up because this is what a lot of our kids go through when they go to school and they want to learn. When they go to school, they want to grow. How many of our kids go to school and they're on point, they're on time, they're in the front row, they're studying hard, they're making good grades, and they get made fun of, and they never get the same respect as that dumb Negro who can't read, who's dunking basketballs every Saturday night? Seriously, how many of you have seen this in the school where the kid who can't read, who can dribble a basketball, gets more love and respect than the kid who reads every day and is planning for the future? And that kid, that dumb jock half the time is going to grow up and become an absolute menace to the community. He's going to become a 10-time baby daddy, drug addict with no money, who's going to go out and spread STDs to about 50 women and have a bunch of kids he ain't going to take care of. He's a slob. He's being trained to be a slob. I know a lot of those slobs. Not saying all athletes are slobs, but y'all know athletes that are slobs. I saw it. I was at the University of Kentucky and I saw these guys that were on the basketball team. Some of them were great guys. There was like people like Nazi Muhammad. There was one guy named Nazi, and I talked to him all the time. He was a great guy. And he was the one that told me that the basketball coaches didn't even want the players to read my articles because they were scared that they were going to start asking them about the money, right? But then there were other guys that I saw who shall remain nameless. And I remember watching these guys and how they were living their lives. And I remember sitting there thinking, this is gonna be bad. This guy is a mess. He's 21 and he's already a drug addict. But these girls are all chasing this guy around. And what they're gonna get is something we learned about in economics. What they were getting is something that we call that they in economics they call this the winner's curse. The winner's curse is where you think you won the prize, but really you got something terrible. Really, you thought you were living the dream, but you really got a nightmare. And you see the winner's curse all the time. So I'm gonna finish this story because I'm gonna lay this out full circle because I think we have to have this conversation. But when I was writing my book Financial Lovemaking, I was interviewing a lot of people about the link between love and money, and love and money and relationships, and hearing about their experiences. On more than one occasion, I would talk to somebody. Usually, it was a woman who married some guy who was like a college basketball star or something. And unfortunately, this guy got caught up in all the trappings of the culture, all the money, the women, the strip clubs, just the buffoonery, the ignorance. And in this particular case, this guy got to about 28 years old. He didn't have any other marketable skill. All he could do was play basketball. He identified him even more dangerously. He identified himself as a basketball player. That's all he could see himself as. He did so you take away basketball, he has nothing. So he got injured maybe about 28, 29. Then he started getting old. He's in his 30s. He can't play anymore. He plays in Europe. And then eventually he just, he can't play for anybody. And suddenly she said, we went from going on vacation and spending $20,000 on every trip to not being able to pay the bills. And because he didn't have any skill, he wasn't able to bring any money into the house. So I was doing all the work, and that really weighed on him psychologically. Plus, he had the baby's mamas and everything else to go with it. And this poor lady was 35 years old, and she moved back into her parents' house in New Jersey with her two kids. And that was similar to another story of another woman who dated a guy in college who was a football star, and he was so good that he went into the NFL draft as a junior. And he went to go play for the Seattle Seahawks, and he did not understand how the NFL uses up black men. So he goes to the NFL. He plays for about a year and a half. But the thing is that to get to the NFL, you have to be an extraordinarily good athlete. So he always felt like one day they were going to call him. So instead of actually going out and building other marketable skills that would allow him to provide for his family, he just sat at home training and waiting for the teams to call. Well, the teams never called. So he starts to get depressed, and because his mental health starts to deteriorate, he starts drinking, and he's also already addicted to painkillers because these players have to take painkillers and so they can get back on the field. So now she said, I had a husband who was sitting at home all day drinking and using drugs. I was working two jobs. She said, I did not think that being married to an NFL player would mean that I would have to work two jobs and pay all the bills, but that's what she did. And then he started to beat her up, and that's when she had to get a divorce. And so to me, these stories have to be told in a way that they become learning lessons for people about what it really means to have balance, to have mental health, to not fall for bright, shiny objects. I think that's what it taught me. It told me that everything that glitters ain't gold, including people. A lot of the bright, shiny people that everybody wants, that everybody thinks are the catches, that they think they're the prize, because you see what's on the surface. I think a consciousness exercise is to really take time to figure out, well, what's beneath the surface? What am I really signing up for? And how does this differ? How does the reality differ from the fantasy? The fantasy is that, I'm going to marry this beautiful person who is popular or whatever it is, or rich or whatever. But then there's all this other stuff that comes with it, but I never factored all that in. And that's how you get into stuff like that lady, there's a lady who's doing a series right now called Who the F Did I Marry? Did y'all see that? And she's literally talking about this man she married that literally knew how to love bomb her and tell her everything that she needed, feed every fantasy that she had about what her dream man would do. So she marries this man, and this man was a complete pathological liar. Half of his life was made up. It was all completely made up. And I heard this story and I said, "Oh, I know guys like that. I know guys like that. I've seen this. I've seen it in real life, a guy like that, where he would be married to a woman for 6 months and she wouldn't even know his real name. She wouldn't know his real past. I know a person like that. And so one guy that I knew like that, he had a bunch of girlfriends and stuff. A lot of women liked him. You know what he said when someone asked him, they said, so how do you get all these girls to like you and chase you down like that? And they're just going crazy over you. And he said, "Oh, it's easy." He said, "They all have a fantasy." He said, "Just sell them a dream. Just sell them a dream." And where he got that from, I believe, is the pimp culture. That's what pimps do. Pimps are smooth talkers. So there's a lot of smooth talking people who have no substance, who can sell you a dream, who will get you to sign up for everything that they're offering you, even though they're selling you a false bill of goods. And because we don't take the time to have real conversations and really learn what consciousness is in every aspect of life, we get sucked into that. And next thing you know, all these calamities take place. And I think the same is true male and female. There are always things that can seduce us and bring us in. Like so for men, it might be just this beautiful woman who has the beautiful smile and does all the says all the right things, and eventually you become intelligent enough to be able to see through all that. So I would just say though that there are formulas though for success, and they're very simple formulas, but you have to deviate from the culture. A lot of black culture is heavily influenced by bright shiny Negroes on TV that feed you like these massive lies, these fake lives, these fake marriages, and everything else. And we literally will think that all that's real, and then we will model our real life after somebody that we saw on TV in a fake marriage where the man might not even date women, right? So I personally think that these conversations are important. So let's finish this chart. Since I sometimes I go on my tangents, I hope it's okay. I really want you to link this back to your economics though, and understand that there are sturdy situations you can be in with sturdy people that will help you to succeed. And I want to go back to that first message I shared with you earlier that 1 plus 1 is 2. And what that means is that economics is supposed to be a team sport. Every time you see a study, I want you to start consciously noticing that in every time they talk about how expensive it is and how the average American can't afford this and they can't afford that, they're always assuming that that person is doing everything by themselves and that they have no help. And that is simply not supposed to be the case. That's not how a lot of Mexican families think. They're like, "No, well, you know what? One of us can't pay that bill, but 11 of us can." Right? And that's so let's all move into this apartment together until we can figure out how to get this system under control. All right, so the E stands for entrepreneurship. Every black child should learn how to start a business by the age of 12 in case they want to quit their job. R stands for relationships. The ability to resolve conflicts would not only save lives of lots of our young people, but it would also open doors for them. That if you know how to manage relationships, pick the right relationships, salvage relationships, maybe take an enemy, turn them into a friend, then that allows you to really get more done because then that goes back to the powernomics philosophy of being able to get things done as a group as opposed to being isolated because you're not invested in learning how relationships work. This should be literally a class. This should literally be a class. Every single one of these parts of this acronym, if I was running a school for black kids, if I ever get a few $100 million and I can build a bunch of schools, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have classes. I'm going to have a class on relationship management. Do you understand how important relationships are in building wealth? People like Dr. George Fraser, I'm going to do a class with him. He's going to come into the Black Business School. His whole business is built off of relationships. He that's all he teaches is how to get along with people. Do you know? Let me give me an example. And this is not even race. This is not even race specific. Because I think you should have relationships with everybody. And so I don't get to talk to white people much because I'm in a space where I'm surrounded by black people and I like it that way, but I don't hate white people. They're fine. I don't get mad at them. I really don't. I really don't. I talk about them a lot. I'm not scared of them, but and which scares them. That's, I think they get scared of me, but I'm not, it's like okay, right? So when I meet white people, I have a great conversation. And there was this nice lady who I talked to, and I told her about what we were doing, and just we just hit it off, and she was a cool lady, and then I get a phone call back where she invited me to this event that where the tickets are like $3,000 for this event, and she was like, I was so intrigued. I thought Boyce is such a great guy. I want to invite him to come to this thing, and these tickets were not only $3,000 a piece, but they're not even available. I looked it up online. I said, "Can I buy these tickets?" I said, "Whoa, they're not even available." So literally, by me simply showing up and not being an asshole and being a nice person and just connecting as a human being, this lady thought, said, "Oh, this is a person that I should know, so invite him to the whatever." And it's so so the thing that that was very hard. This is my point. The thing that was very hard to do suddenly became easy to do because I'd formed this basic simple relationship. So the same thing is true generally in business. A lot of times we think that the world is a meritocracy. We think that if I've got the best resume, I've got the best chance to get the job and all this other stuff. That is not how the world works. You can apply for the job, be the best equipped, best fit, whatever. But that's a fantasy. That is an illusion that somehow having the best resume is going to give you the best chance to get the job. Typically, people will hire people that they have relationships with, they'll partner with people they have relationships with before they'll partner with a stranger with a great resume. Especially when it's high stakes business. When it's high stakes business involving millions of dollars or billions of dollars, billionaires and millionaires have to be really careful about who's around them. So first thing they do is say, "Do you know this person?" Or "Who do you know that might be able to do XYZ?" And if somebody they trust that other person, then that trust it engages in what in mathematics is called the law of transitivity. It becomes transitive, where they begin to trust the person because someone they trust also trusts that person. So if you know how to form relationships when you're young, it's very easy to really get things done. And this is something, it took me a very long time to learn this. I would encourage you to put your child in spaces where they can learn this at an early age. Also, relationship management might involve things like the ability to de-escalate conflict. The ability to de-escalate conflict is one of the most important skills that any person can have, especially in the Black community, because my wife and I, when we formed the Black Financial Therapy Department in the Black Business School, one of the things that we figured out very quickly is that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is one of the leading factors in why Black people cannot build wealth. That is the number one variable that is causing so many problems. You have traumatized people who get triggered constantly. I'm one of them. I have very high trauma. I can get easily triggered. Sometimes I get triggered while I'm talking to y'all. So that is my mental illness popping out. But at least the awareness of it hopefully helps me to manage it. And I do have a therapist that I love talking to very much. So that inability to deal with that trauma causes us to get in these conflicts that become these nuclear holocausts. They become more explosive. And what's interesting is I noticed that people get applause for going off on somebody and telling somebody off and going, "Oh no, yeah, that's right. You tell them, you da, da, da." Right. We like that stuff. We like the drama. Look at Club Shay Shay, and look at how Shannon Sharp is gathering all these comedians who are little crabs in a barrel fighting for these limited opportunities that white folks decide to give them because they're all under the control of pretty much white and Jewish Hollywood, and they're all sitting in there going at each other with razor blades. They're literally coming. They're coming on the show now just so they can tell off other people and talk crazy about other people. And Shannon is culpable. He's encouraging this stuff. He's not encouraging them to come together and be friends. Well, why? Well, because Black people loving each other and getting along and forming partnerships and having unity, that ain't good TV. That's not going to get you 42 million views. But what will get you 42 million views is somebody saying, "I'm going to expose the truth. Let me tell you about so and so. Let me tell you what kind of person he ugly, he's stupid, he's blah blah blah. That man stole my joke in 1992. I don't like that." Right? That's what gets the views. That's what we like. We like that. That's exciting for us. That sets off our what's that stuff in your body, that cortisol, the cortisol, that's they said that's why that's why traumatized people die earlier than other people. My wife, when she got her trauma certification, she said traumatized people have health effects physically, they have health effects mentally. They die younger because your cortisol level is on 10. Every time you get up, you're banging over breakfast. You're ready to fight everybody. You're always looking for the brawl. You're always trying to win or dominate or overcome or whatever. And really, that's not the way life is supposed to be. You're not supposed to, thank you, Jazzy. You're not supposed to have stress hormones constantly running through your body like little cockroaches trying to eat dinner every day. You're not supposed to have that inside your system, but you do. You do because you just think that that's just part of being part of the black community. I don't want to be in that community. I want peace. I want peace. I want love. I want happiness. I want I want I want to smile. I want to be friends. I want us to work through our differences. I want us to find our common ground. I kid you not, and that's even with people. That's even with my so-called enemies. In fact, if you're my enemy, you're really arguing with yourself because you're not. If you consider me to be your enemy, you're not my enemy. I don't want to be your enemy. I want to find common ground. I want to woosah. I want to breathe. I want to be happy, right? And I want to work together. And I want, you know, and I think, and that's just generally beneficial. War-torn environments don't tend to lead to much prosperity. If you go look at World War II, Europe during World War II, you're not seeing prosperous businesses being built in a strong economic system. You're seeing destruction everywhere. You're seeing buildings torn to the ground and little children starving and everything falling apart. And ultimately, this is what I think. This is what I see. Let's go. If you go back to the Club Shay Shay example, and I see Cat Williams just dropping a nuclear warhead on top of the head of every comedian that is more successful than he is in the mainstream. I didn't like that. I didn't something about it didn't make me feel good. I said, well, how does the community benefit if Cat Williams destroys Steve Harvey? I just don't know. I'm having a hard time understanding how anybody really wins from that. The best I would say is I would say, well, just let him live. Just you do your thing. You be the best you can be. How about you show them up by going out and really being successful, right? But when you have a crabs in a barrel environment where I feel that the only way I can succeed is if I take your spot, then that's when you have the competition. That's when you have the violence. That's when you have the destruction. And it becomes almost like a football game. And I mean the reason the 49ers and the Chiefs were hitting each other hard and giving each other brain damage and trying to send each other to the hospital is because there's only one trophy. There's only one Super Bowl trophy. Two teams can't win the trophy. Now, if each team could have their own trophy, then maybe they would say, I don't want to get injured today. I don't really, I don't want any more brain damage. I already have 12 concussions. So how about I get my trophy, you get yours, I get my money, you get yours, and we just be friends. We all go to dinner together, right? So ultimately, sometimes that competition can be interesting, but sometimes the competition can be very destructive. And one thing is that there are some areas where you compete, some areas where you don't have to compete. And I think that in family, there shouldn't really be that level of competition, that level of animosity, that level of destruction. If you're in business together, there should be harmony. There should not be competition and destruction. And also, there are tools that can help you with that, right? There are therapists that can work on that. So I always say that this is an unconventional idea. I've never seen anybody else say this, but this is what I'll say. I think anytime you get in a situation where you start making money with somebody else, or you have a situation that's really working for you and that becomes a valuable relationship, I would encourage you to get a group therapist that you can talk to together periodically to make sure that you avoid any potential problems and that you work through those problems smoothly. Like, so let's say that you and your buddy form a rap group and y'all have a hit album, and suddenly your group is touring around the world and making lots of money, and people are in your ear and everybody's buzzing about your music. Groups like that should get a therapist so they can make sure everybody stays on the same page and you can keep going out and getting this money together. Look at New Edition. I'm super proud of New Edition. I only know two guys from New Edition. One of them was in our stock market class. He's in the Black Business School, the real tall one, Ronnie. And then the other one, Michael Bivens. I interviewed Michael Bivens back about 12, 13 years ago. I could tell when I talked to Michael Bivens that he's a leader. I really felt like Michael Bivens, I'd love to talk to them just to understand the dynamics of the group. But a lot of times when you have groups that have a level of success, usually there's some catalyst, there's some leader in the group that kind of guides the group in a certain way. And I feel like Michael Bivens could be that guy, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know the other ones, but I don't think I would doubt that it's Bobby Brown. Okay. Right. And so anyway, if you look at New Edition, think about how much money New Edition is making right now because they were able to get all these guys back on the same page, back together again. You know, crazy Bobby Brown and Ralph and Johnny and all these guys that went solo, the Bell Biv DeVoe guys. And the reason I think Michael Bivins is the guy that drove a lot of this is because when when Ralph and Johnny, if you remember back in the day, when Ralph and Johnny went solo, that made sense. And when Bobby went solo, that made sense because they had so much talent. The three guys in Bell Biv DeVoe, eh, oh, Ronnie, Ricky, and Mike. Is that what their names were? Ronnie, Mickey, and Mike. I like the girl. Who cares? Right? Those three guys, they didn't quite have what those other guys had. So I believe Michael Bivins got them together and said, "Hey, let's, sure we can't really sing that well, but there's a cool factor in music, and I understand the cool factor. Michael Bivins is a very cool guy. Like he just came in and he just had a certain swag about him, and he knew he just the way he talked. I remember just feeling like, okay, this guy understands he has a high level of social intelligence. So I think that they said, okay, let's get together, let's pull together our cool factor and create this BBD concept. And BBD did really well. If you remember, they had a lot of songs that were hit songs, and they really couldn't sing that great, to be honest with you. No disrespect, but I don't they couldn't sing like Johnny Gill. How about that? Let's just say that. So what I love about New Edition is I think they're a very public example of what you can do when you're able to put the egos to the side, figure out a way to work together and go get things done. A counter example to that might be like a group like 3 6 Mafia. If you talk to Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia, which is a group that to this day could be touring right now, filling up small arenas and making lots of money, or packaging on with these other old school tours that are very popular now, if you listen to Juicy J describe why 3 6 Mafia fell apart, one thing that he said, it was very predictable. He said that everybody, when we blew up, you had egos and people started using drugs and people stopped showing up to meetings on time and everybody started fighting. And that led to the breakup of 3 6 Mafia. And this to me is very predictable. This is exactly what can occur when there's no sort of understand, there's no consciousness about how to maintain the golden goose, how to maintain the unity of this group that leads to us being successful, the understanding that we all need each other, right? And which is contrary to the ego that we're sort of fed. We're taught to believe that I got to be the man, I got to be the most important, I'm the best, I got to compete with everybody. No, you don't. You're not. You shouldn't. You can compete together and do really well. So if 3 6 Mafia had, let's say, a therapist in their group who could go sit them down and say, "Look, Juicy, you got to come to the meetings. It's very, but your teammates need you. Whatever, right?" And just sort of kept it together, or a good leader, a Michael Bivins type of leader, an alpha who could lead and bring the group together, then that wealth would have been preserved. This is an economic conversation. I hope you understand that this is economics here. That group, the 3 6 Mafia is probably, I don't know, at least a 300-400 million dollar brand if they were touring and putting out merch and doing all this other thing. They have a podcast, right? And get $100 million deal from Spotify with the 3 6 Mafia podcast, whatever, right? I don't even know what they're doing. Maybe they're doing some of this. I have no idea. But anyway, so another example. Let me give you one more example, public example of how relationships and the ability to de-escalate conflict, or the inability, can either be a wealth opportunity or a wealth loss. Let me give you another example. This is the big one: Biggie and Pac. Biggie and Tupac was one of the great economic calamities of all of hip hop. Biggie, Tupac, and the destruction of Death Row Records. All those three things were $100 billion economic calamity of epic proportions. If I went back in time, if I had a time machine and could control what people do, and you gave me complete control over Death Row Records and the careers of Biggie and Pac, I could turn that into a at least $50 billion entity by getting them Negroes to act like they got some damn sense. Death Row Records was producing hit records like it was nothing. They were at the epicenter of the growing industry of hip hop music and gangster rap in particular. The problem is that they had such terrible culture that that all that value was destroyed because of this reckless behavior of so many people. The young guys who had no true guidance or mentorship, or no mentors they felt that they were forced to listen to. And then you had Biggie and Pac, two guys who were actually friends. This is crazy. Two friends. That friendship could easily have been rekindled if they'd sat down in a room alone with Louis Farrakhan for a couple hours. I think they could have worked that out. I really do. But again, there's that ugly thing of trauma and the inability to de-escalate conflicts. And Tupac was not a de-escalator. Tupac was an escalator. Tupac was he would pull out the trump card and I effed your wife and blah blah blah, right? So he wanted things to go to a higher level, and then he ended up not just losing his life, but if Tupac had lived, he would literally be worth probably about $1 billion, just like Jay-Z. Jay-Z is just the inadequate replacement for Tupac. He's not what Tupac would have been. Tupac was he transcended hip hop in a special way. He was that Muhammad Ali-ish kind of figure, and Biggie was pretty extraordinary as well. So when these two guys can't resolve their conflict, and again, white America, the ownership of media eggs it on. They egg on the conflict. They want to, they instigate. They like to see black trauma. This is true even to this day. To this day, there's a whole multi-billion-dollar reality TV industry that is built upon traumatized black people being put in a room together and re-traumatizing each other. They want to see what happens when they fight and see who the survivor is, right? So there are people that make money by putting you in a cage and watching you fight each other, right? But we don't make any of that money. We don't benefit from that. We get destroyed by that. We get harmed by that. Our families break up from that. We lose wealth from that. So going back to the point of relationships, young people who are taught to de-escalate conflict and manage healthy relationships and select healthy relationships are more successful than people who can't. That doesn't just apply on the high level to Biggie, Pac, 3 6 Mafia, the examples I mentioned here. It also goes down to you and your wife, you and that husband, you and those kids. You have to learn the art of de-escalating conflict, which requires a multitude of things, starting with things like being able to put your ego to the side and maybe sitting down with a therapist and dealing with your childhood trauma. Sometimes I get mad at my wife, and I'm not even mad at my wife. Really, I'm mad at my mama. Right? That's how deep the therapy can go. I realized, wait, I had this issue with mama from when I was 15, and it's happening with my wife, and I gotta identify that and address that before I destroy something that's very valuable to me. It requires consciousness. And people go through life unconscious. So if you go through your life trained to be unconscious and you're committed to being unconscious at every available opportunity, then you will fail. You will not succeed. Your children will not succeed if they are not trained to be conscious on some level. So relationships, thinking about that is extremely important. Let me throw up the last point and then we'll finish up for today. We're going a little bit longer than we normally do, but I don't know. I'm having fun. All right. So the last part of making money in the Sturdy model, STERDY, systems make money through systems, technology, entrepreneurship. That's how big money's made in this society. Relationships, healthy relationships, picking them, managing them, repairing them, de-escalating conflict, and then delegation. Delegation is really important because you are raised and you're trained to work extremely hard, and you're raised and trained to do everything by yourself, and that's not how wealth is actually built. People that tend to be very wealthy are people that have systems and technology and relationships, and they delegate to other people. And so instead of working 40 hours a week like you, they're working 5,000 hours a week by having a whole team of people that are all working extremely hard to get things done. That's how wealthy people get rich. That's how institutions get built. So the ability to delegate, again, that should be a whole class. I kid you not, I would literally have kids taking a whole class on how to delegate. Okay, I want you to go get this done, but I don't want you to do any work at all. How are you going to do that? I don't know. I don't know. I gotta, okay, well, you gotta form relationships with people that can do it for you, and you gotta incentivize that, and you gotta maintain those relationships. And you have to have a system in place so they can follow the system. If you train the kid to think like that early, that kid is guaranteed to be a millionaire. They're guaranteed to be wealthy. They're guaranteed to be operating on a higher economic frequency. Their economic consciousness will be through the freaking roof. So this is my homework for you. This is my assignment for you for today. And we're going to come back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can join us again. And by the way, if you want to see all the trainings that we've done, we've probably done about 40 now. Go to drboycedaily.com. Drboycedaily.com is where you can get access to the Zoom. And I'm going to give you guys a link where you guys can actually send me questions. And maybe some days we'll just do a straight Q&A so that I can respond to your questions. Because I know I'm talking a lot, and I really at some point want to hear back so we can so we can do kind of a Q&A thing. But pay the kid $10 to memorize the sturdy model. S stands for systems, T stands for technology, E stands for entrepreneurship, R stands for relationships, D stands for delegation. The Y, let's say the Y stands for youth, right? That it does the Y doesn't matter. It's just an add-on. But build if we build sturdy children, if we build a million sturdy children in our community in this generation, we will absolutely dominate and obliterate the next generation. The year 2054 belongs to us, right? But you have to prepare. In the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu, Sun Tzu says that battles are won before they begin. So in the future, 30 years in the future, there are going to be battles that your children are going to fight. They're going to be the same battles that you're fighting: the battle against racism, the battle against oppression, the battle against unfair capitalism, the Democrat Republican battles, whatever battles that are going to be fought. So by preparing in 2024, 2025, and 2026, we can win those battles in 2056, 2057, 2058. But you have to have enough consciousness and enough economic vision to prepare early. So you invest for the kid, you train them on the things that they're going to need to know, you give them an unconventional education, bring them to class if you want, bring them here if you can, right? Or let them watch, again, drboycedaily.com, all the recordings are there. Have them watch that. Pay, and again, the little trick is just give them a little bit of money. Just make it like a chore. Like they're gonna think about it. They're gonna go and get a job flipping tacos or something stupid. You might as well give them a job doing something that's gonna benefit them for the rest of their life. How much more of a benefit can a 10-year-old get than sitting and listening to somebody like me all day? I'm not saying that I'm a special, wonderful person. I'm saying that I know the hell out of finance. I know more than these other people on TV and stuff. I know this stuff. So exposing them to these ideas will set them on a whole nother level. They're going to get a whole lot more than I got. I got a lot from my grandmother, but really all she taught me was compound interest and savings bonds because she didn't know a whole lot of stuff. But that made a big difference because it opened the Pandora's box for me. But I'm telling you, that this stuff that took me 20 years to think about and process and figure out and put into models, you give that to your kid, they're going to be on level 12. You give that to your grandkids. And again, remember, you don't have to have a child in order to be a parent. So I think that all of us, I know this is what I do. I believe that God gives you a mandate. All the kids are mine. When the kids come to the convention, those are all my kids. I want to be able to pour something positive into all those children, because that benefits the community. So again, you don't have to adopt that philosophy, but that's what I believe. And if you agree with that, if that makes sense to you, then I say run with it. Whoever you're meant to be, whatever level you're meant to contribute, run with it, and don't let anybody make you feel bad for being as extreme as you are. You go and you do your thing because that's what makes you special. That's what makes you unique. That's what makes you powerful. Because the people who know who they are, other people will move out of their way for the people who know exactly where they're going and know exactly who they are. So be that person. Go do it. Let's get it done. God bless you guys. It was great to see you. I'm gonna head on out. Just a reminder, if you want to get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can also get the study guide or the flashcards to go with it. The flashcards are for kids. You can go to drboycebooks.com, and the URL above my head, the drboycemethod.com. That's for those of you that want to learn about stocks. If you want to learn a method, I put together an 11-step method on how to pick stocks. Just questions you can ask yourself on whether or not you want to add that stock to your portfolio. Feel free to go to thedrboycemethod.com. Two more things I'll give you. If you want to join us for Wednesday's Powernomics class, just text the word greatness to 87948. Text greatness to 87948. And if you want to join Sherry Mitchell, who's visiting the Black Business School, and she's going to do a lecture on the origins of anti-Blackness. It is a free event. And so if you'd like to join there, I'm going to put that link in the chat right now so you guys can go and register if you'd like. And if you're not on the list, if you text greatness to 87948, I'll also text the link out to you guys between now and Saturday. So here is the link to Sherry Mitchell's anti-Blackness training. So she's going to go back into history, like the thousands of years. So if you're into that kind of thing, you can feel free to join that. And then also tonight at 8, we're doing something in Dr. Boyce Real Estate where we're bringing in a brother named Rashad. I don't have his last name in front of me, but he is running a successful roofing business. And he says there's a lot of money to be made there. He understands the blueprint. He wants to talk to you guys about that. So if you'd like to do a free trial in Dr. Boyce Real Estate, it's not free, but you can do a free trial by going to drboycerealestate.com. That's drboycerealestate.com. And so I'll see you guys tonight. So I hope this conversation was beneficial. I know I've enjoyed talking to you, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. So